Pumpkins, candies, tricksters, creepy masks, monsters, kids, lots of sugar, kids on lots of sugar, worried parents because their kids are on lots of sugar, pedophiles. No, not that one. Perfect. Cinephiles, blood, gore, horror movies, or in short, Halloween is here. Halloween is obviously very special to me. For one thing, horror is my favorite genre, and a whole month dedicated to this wonderful festival that invites horror movies and discussions is something that I look forward to every year. This year especially, I have seen a lot of horror movies, to a point that it's kind of unhealthy, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that we get to talk about it. Even though I did see a lot of horror films, I'm not going to talk about all of them. I have handpicked exactly 13 films that I'm going to talk about. Why 13, you ask? Well, I'm not going to tell you because you didn't ask, so your loss. So let's not waste any more time in the most boring compulsory section and just get to it. Borno, play the thing. I started the month with a thing. Not just a thing, The Thing. John Carpenter's iconic masterpiece, The Thing. I'm amazed at how it still holds up and gives the modern landscape of CGI and practical effects a run for their money. And I get why people regard this film as one of the best horror ever created. The claustrophobic sets and its chilling atmosphere, the gripping acting, the tense score, the amazing direction, and the practical effects. My god, the practical effects are so fucking good. The suspense is always high, the stakes are never low, and the characters are always miserable. These are the three things that are essential to make a great horror movie. The film never lets you off the hook, have a moment to relax. It just goes on with its paranoid, frustrating, hauntingly beautiful storytelling. I love what my guy Tarantino said about the film. He said something along the lines of, the film sort of breaks the fourth wall and lets you in on its paranoia-driven nightmare. And I agree. That's a great analogy, and I don't think I can do a better one than that. Then I watched Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2. Over the years, it has become my go-to Halloween film. I cannot say or add anything that has not been said about this film because everyone has said something about this film, and it is very tough to critique it in a very original way because, Evil Dead 2 is comforting to watch. It is hilariously stupid. The gore is riding the fine line between being too over the top or being too gross. The film is already great, but one aspect that makes this film 100 times better is Bruce Campbell's unflinching, uncompromising, dedicated performance. He does so much while still being this over-the-top caricature of a horror protagonist. He chews up every scene he's in, and you can really feel that how much Sam Raimi loves working with Campbell. Their chemistry off-screen somehow tears through the screen. And even in this goofy movie, you can't help but feel the love, the charm, the sincerity that Sam Raimi brings. This is as peak as cinema goes. Then I watched Night of the Demons, and it was so much fun. The camp is really strong with this one. I love the way the characters talk in this movie. It's as if the director specifically told the actors to go out all guns blazing. Their delivery of simple dialogues that in no way could be funny, but the way they say it, it's kind of hilarious. Look at this scene, for example.
Gee, mister, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you.
I don't need to help you, damn little whore!
Well, fine. I wouldn't want to help an old creep like you anyway.
Damn rotten kids.
So if you're not overtly fond of this type of campy horror films, then this is probably not for you. But as you can tell by this list, I am a stand for camp and I really enjoyed this movie. Then I revisited The Ring, and it is still a delight. I love how by the book this film is. It treats itself like a sincere mystery rather than an out and out horror, if that makes any sense. And there's no sense of irony or cheekiness to it. Every horror film these days has to have themes of metaphysical elements, existential dread, sneaky satires about social injustices, and so on and so forth. Not that I don't enjoy those movies, I really do. But sometimes it's nice to see just a well made horror film that just focuses on being a well horror film. The Ring is a very sincere, cleverly crafted movie with fun twists and turns. I love how the film is shot, though the green filter is kind of annoying, but it at least gives the film a different look. I love Naomi Watts' performance, she's great in it. Also, the music is fantastic in this one. The terrific sound design complementing the creepy footage is also a nice touch, and I had a great time. To be honest, they don't make movies like this anymore, and it was nice to see an old school by the books horror movie. Speaking of old school, I also watched House on Haunted Hill, and I had fun with it. It is loosely based on the Shirley Jackson novel, and I'm putting the emphasis on the word loosely. But first, I have to preface this by saying that House on Haunted Hill is not a very good movie. I mean, it's competently made and decently acted, but if you go into this expecting something like Eyes Without a Face or a Les Diabolique, you'd be hugely disappointed. It has its moments for sure, but if you take a second to think about what's happening or what has happened, the plot falls apart very quickly. There's so many things in this movie that needs further explanation and a more detailed take, so in the future, maybe I'll probably do a full-on review on this film. But for now, watch it if you're in the mood for a black and white haunted house film. And if you're craving for a good haunted house film that has something to do with Shirley Jackson, why not watch Mike Flanagan's The Haunting of Hill House for the 50th time? Then I watched Sleepy Hollow, and I think it is still one of my favorite horror films of all time. I haven't spoiled myself with much gothic horror, but I'm assuming it doesn't get much better than this. First of all, I love how the film looks. Every shot is so beautifully crafted, every frame looks like a painting. And you can really feel the atmosphere slowly drawing you into its absurd world. You know, a Tim Burton film is good when there is less Tim Burtonism in them. I mean, the characters are still quirky, the dialogues are still eccentric, but you could see Burton holding back and just letting the Hammer horror film style work its own charm. Johnny Depp is fantastic in this. He adds a lot of flair in his character. I love how Ichabod, his character, is kind of a wuss. He's disgusted by blood, yet he's someone who has to constantly deal with it. He's always hiding behind someone, be it his 11-year-old ward or his new girlfriend. Even when he's being brave and heroic, that part of his character remains intact. It just makes him a very endearing protagonist. The music is also amazing. Danny Elfman goes all out on this one. Without his music, the atmosphere would just fall flat. Even while writing this part of the script, I'm listening to the music. Then I watched Coraline for the second time. Or was it Caroline? Caroline? Who names their daughter Coraline? Is there a typo on the birth certificate? I remember not liking it that much when I first saw it many months ago. I can't remember exactly why I didn't like it. I swear I wasn't smoking ganja at that point. But I think that would have made the experience a lot better. But I think I can make an educated guess why I didn't like it. I think the way I consumed movies back then was totally different as to how I watch it now. Back then, I deemed a film worthy based on some very specific criteria. Meaningful story, or likable characters, or life-altering philosophies. Like the story had to have a certain point for me to enjoy it. I know, not a good look for me. Kinda snobby. And I was projecting my own life experiences and expectations onto the films I was watching. And it wasn't fair. But as I've gotten older, I view things a lot differently. Like I know now, Coraline isn't trying to prove a point, it just exists as this creepy animated movie whose narrative is very much inspired by German folktales or things from that side of things. What I mean by that is, Coraline, like Germanic folktales, have this structure of thinly spread plot, told through such flares of visual absurdity. And I love it all the more for it. That absurdity is portrayed with such love and care that it comes through as charming. I also found a lot of parallels between Coraline and Ghibli films, especially the ones Miyazaki directed. Only the main difference being Miyazaki films tend to lean more towards the family friendly narrative, but you could tell both of them have this eerie calmness going on. While Miyazaki or Ghibli doesn't go all out on the creepiness, but Coraline really does. It's everything you want in a Halloween movie. It's creepy, it's absurd, and also has enough warmth and coziness to it that you'd come back to it again and again and again. Wait, I think I'm describing the other mother's place. Anyway, then I watched Halloween 3, Season of the Bitches. No, I read it right. It's not witches, cause that would make it a good movie. I really did not enjoy this movie. I saw John Carpenter's name associated with it somewhere, so being the dumbass that I am, I just assumed he directed the film, and he obviously did not. Halloween 3 is so painfully dull. It could not decide what it wanted to be. The tone was all over the place. Was it a campy movie? Was it trying to be a Chinatown for Halloween? Was it a satire of corporation taking over traditions? Is it really that deep? Or is it so bad that it's good? I can't fucking tell. And who the fuck pronounces Monday that way?
No, I can't remember the name of the hotel. I'll call you Monday. I'll call you Monday. I'll call you Monday. I'll call you Monday.
Then to cleanse myself from the shit that Halloween 3 was, I watched Young Frankenstein for the millionth time, and it is, without a doubt, one of the best comedies of all time, if not the best. It still tremendously holds up, which is really funny because even in 1974 it felt really old. Maybe that's why it has that timeless, evergreen feel to it, because it wasn't targeted to a specific period. Gene Wilder wilding out for 2 hours is an absolute treat. There is no man on earth who could have done the role of Frankenstein. Every minor gag to every major one he does are all so effortlessly funny. I think what makes this so funny is the straight man approach to this. Most of these actors aren't trying to be funny. They're 100% committed to the sincerity of their roles, and contrasting that sincerity with the absurd narrative makes the film absolutely hilarious. Like the saying goes, if the characters are laughing, then the audience is not. And even if you are a snob or a comedy purist, you'd still have a stupid grin on your face throughout the whole runtime. It's just that kind of movie. Then I watched a South Korean horror movie called The Wailing. It is, in one word, a very interesting movie. I never look up what movies mean after I'm done watching it because it takes away from the experience of my own interpretations. But this was an exception, so I looked it up. And I'm thankful that my experience wasn't ruined, because I am even more confused after hearing everyone else's interpretation. It's not like an Eraserhead or a Holy Mountain. It's more like you're confused whether you found a plot hole or was it deliberate? Did it make sense for the story, or you are the dumbass? I don't know. After reading other people's reviews, I can assume that everyone's as confused as I am, or just guessing at this point. But the film is good, though the pacing could have been better. There's some long drawn out scenes that didn't need to be that long, but other than that, it's all smooth sailing. The film is incredibly shot with its brilliant sound design and chilling score. The film manages to create a very unique atmosphere. It's a film that will leave an impression. Then I watched a Japanese horror film directed by Takashi Miike, and it is called Audition. I have been meaning to watch this for a very long time, and I'm glad I finally got to it. Audition is incredible. I was kind of expecting that also. It juggles a lot of genres all at the same time. It's very funny, at least in the first act. It's very dramatic in a nonchalant way that still elevates the story that they're trying to tell, and it's fucking scary. I was like shitting bricks at one point. There's this one jump scare sort of involving a bag, and I literally jumped out. And I don't get scared easily these days. I thought I was very desensitized to this aspect of horror films. But I guess not. Maybe it's different when someone actually competent directs a horror movie. But the reason that Audition is so scary that it sort of taps into a very real fear that we all have, that we all experienced at some point in our lives. Audition sort of takes that premise and turns it in a very morbid way. This is the type of horror that I really like. Then I watched It Comes at Night, and I loved it. I definitely expected something a lot different, but what I got was something else entirely, and I'm not disappointed by it. I'm actually very pleased. I always say that isolated settings are the best for horror movies, and if written well, it can go beyond the general expectations. It Comes at Night isn't exactly an original idea, but how it approaches the story is what makes it stand out. The acting is fantastic, the music is amazing, the shots are very masterfully handled. I liked how they lit every scene inside the house. It adds to the paranoia of seeing enough or not seeing enough. It Comes at Night understands that true horror lies in the helplessness of our choices, that the human condition is far more scary than any monster could ever be. So that's what I watched, Halloween, and it was really fun to watch all these horror films. Write down in the comments what film lineup do you want me to review next. And be kind to each other during the holidays, and happy Halloween to all.